Okay. Welcome, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. If you have roll call, please.
Yes, we have 3 commissioners here, which is a quorum, and board members Patel and Helzer are not in attendance, but the board currently has 5 appointed members and 3 constitutes a quorum, so we are able to move forward with business today. And I'll look to Margie for confirmation that we have met the requirements of the Kansas Open Meeting Act and required notice of today's meeting has been provided. So we're allowed to proceed. And I would just pause to introduce myself to Catherine and Jennifer. I'm Dean Andrew. I'm the Planning Zoning Administrator for the city. I work with Mr. Berger and was not here at your September 10th meeting, your first meeting, but between the 10th and today, Mr. Berger has retired from the city of Salina, so that's why you don't see him sitting here, and I am. So I realized when I looked at the minutes that I was not here on September 10th, but that's why you see me here and not Mr. Berger. So,
Well, thank you. All right, then. I guess the next item is approval of the minutes of the September 10th meeting. If everybody had a chance to look over those, and so I'll need discussion, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll have a motion to approve the minutes from September.
Moved.
And I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Then I guess we're ready for our new business.
yeah, we have 3 applications for you this afternoon. We appreciate the board agreeing to hold a special meeting as we have continued to work through having one scheduled board meeting a month. We were looking ahead to the next meeting being on November the 12th, and since these are all 3 signed applications, we felt like waiting till November 12th was too long, so we appreciate you agreeing to meet on the 5th Thursday of the month in a special meeting. The first application is for a property addressed as 227 North Santa Fe Avenue, and this is a building that was substantially redone in 1983, and it's notable from the standpoint that it's one of the few buildings downtown that has a street level parking deck. It's a multi-story building, and there's parking on the lowest street level, and then there's an elevator that provides access to the upper story office suites. And this refurbishing project was done by Beaverly Architects, and they were one of the main tenants on the 3rd floor, but they have relocated out of the building. And if you've seen some activity around the old Missouri Pacific Depot at Santa Fe and Pine, they are refurbishing that space to make it an architectural studio. So we received a sign permit application for this property to install 2 new wall signs on the front facade of the building. Staff informed the sign contractor and the building owner that because this property is located within the Salina Business Improvement District Number 1, that there is a requirement for this board to review the proposed signs before staff can issue a sign permit. So we received a certificate of compatibility application, which is in your packet, and the board chair agreed to hold a special meeting on the 29th to consider this request. So we advertised a public hearing for this date to review the signs for conformance with the design guidelines for downtown Salina. And Cohen Property and Development recently purchased this property at 227 North Santa Fe, with plans to relocate the offices of United Capital Management over to this building. And to identify the building, they're proposing to install 2 new wall signs on the east facade. You can see the upper sign identifies the building as United Capital Plaza, and it consists of channel letters. Those are about 18 inches tall, and I think they measure out at 30-some feet wide, spread across the building. The second wall sign would be also below those channel letters, and it measures out at about 72 square feet, and it's a business sign for United Capital Management of Kansas, Inc. We have summarized for you the major guidelines that are contained in the downtown design guidelines as it relates to signs, and probably the main things are proportionality and just making sure that the sign fits in with the overall facade composition. You can see for yourself that the upper sign will have metallic appearing letters, and the lower sign will have dark brown or earth tone letters. Sometimes staff doesn't do a good job of interpreting those colors, so we would request that the applicant or their contractor confirm that we're correctly describing the sign colors. This building has 75 feet of frontage on Santa Fe, and the upper building sign will be 34 feet long, and the lower sign will be 25 feet long. Both of those signs, staff believes, are proportionate to and in scale with the 75-foot building facade, and we don't believe either sign will dominate the front facade of the building. The permit indicates that the upper sign will be backlit and the lower sign will have internal illumination. There is no prohibition on illuminated signs in the downtown business district. The design guidelines express a preference for backlit signs. Again, with 75 feet of frontage, this building could have up to 225 square feet of sign area, and the total sign area being proposed is 124 square feet. So we have cited for you on page 4 of your report some possible findings that you could base a decision for approval on. We think that the signs will be coordinated with the overall facade composition. We think that the signs emphasize and don't obscure the main elements of the facade, and they would be the main identification sign would be backlit only. As we interpret it, they will have metallic and dark brown lettering, which would complement the building materials on the front facade, and the signs do conform with the sign size limitations of the C4 district. So as it relates to this application, on page 4, we've identified that you could approve the application if you agree with staff's suggested findings on page 4. You could approve the application subject to any conditions or modifications that you want to see to the proposal. You could postpone consideration if you think additional information is needed to reach a decision. You would want to set a future meeting date if you had a motion to postpone, and you could deny the application as presented if you don't agree with the findings that staff has set out on page 4. So with that, staff would be open to any questions. The applicant's represented as well, if you have any questions of them. Our main question is that sometimes we look and don't correctly interpret the intended colors, or sometimes the colors don't come through when we copy them to make them what they're actually proposed to be. So we did our best job to interpret that for you. But with that, we'd be open to questions.
Okay. Any comments, questions from anybody?
Well, that was the only thing I noticed in the notes was the question about color. So if there is someone that could.
Is there a representative here? Okay. Would one of you like to step up and identify yourself, and then?
My name's Jeremy Guthrie with Mark Signs, and we'll be the ones that would be building the signs for them. The upper letters are a stainless steel finish, a brushed stainless steel finish, so that's the metallic nature, and they'll have a reverse glow lighting that will kind of glow around the backs of the letters at night. The bottom cabinet sign will be painted as close as we can get to the stone color. So it'll be a painted finish, and then the black letters there will be a push-through acrylic that will have a black face on the front, but it'll glow around the outside of those at night with just a white light glow around those too.
Around the letters or around the sign?
Around the letters.
Okay.
Just around the letters, yeah.
Okay, very good.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Anything? Okay. All right, and if there's no further discussion, I guess I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that, based on the staff's recommendation on option number 2, with the, that if there's significant change, that it would be brought back to the board.
Okay, motion.
I'll
And
second that.
Motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. Approved. Thank you.
You'll be working with Dustin on the sign committee, and I'll get you something in writing that summarizes today's action. So you have that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Item 3.2 is a sign request also, but it is for a ground sign or monument sign. And the proposed location is the northeast corner of South 5th Street and Mulberry Street, across the street from the Homewood Suites Hotel. And Mr. Crawford can probably tell you the story of, if you want to go back to that vicinity map, John, or Dustin, I was just going to show the shaded request area. This is an odd-shaped parcel here because the owners were not able to come to terms and purchase this property here and this property here, so the parking lot was kind of built around that, but that's why the request area, the property that we're talking about, has the odd shape to it. We summarized for you in our report previous actions that this board had taken dating back to the fall of 2017. And the first thing this board looked at was the demolition and removal of multiple structures that were at this intersection to make way for construction of a proposed new 5-story hotel. And so we've kind of highlighted those for you, what those were, but there were 4 commercial properties that were essentially at the northwest corner of the intersection. And then there was also plans for the satellite parking lot, and that involved the removal of 10 residential structures throughout that area. And those were reviewed by the Design Review Board and approved in September of 2017. Then the developers came back in November of 2017 with their specific design and construction plans for the new hotel and parking lot. And so we summarized for you that this board approved the design plans for both projects on November 30th, 2017. A building permit was issued for the hotel project on June 21st, 2018, and a zoning certificate was approved for the final parking lot design on February 14th, 2020. And as you can see, the hotel is complete and open for business, as are the 2 restaurants located within the hotel building. The off-site parking lot and the associated landscaping is also complete, and the parking lots are in use. Several of the homes in that vicinity were also what we refer to as heritage conservation properties or historic properties, including a home that was right here at the corner of 5th and Mulberry. So that had to be reviewed and approved by the Heritage Commission as well as the Design Review Board. In their approval of the demolition, the Heritage Commission suggested to the developer that they try to save and repurpose some of the brick from the historic home and repurpose it, which they did by constructing a brick planter at the intersection. So they constructed this planter out of some of the salvaged brick, and they are now wanting to use that planter as a base for a proposed monument sign. And Lighthouse Properties is proposing to install letters and a logo on this brick planter to create a monument sign for Homewood Suites, to identify the parking lot and associate that parking lot with the hotel, to help hotel guests recognize that that is a hotel parking lot. So again, this was filed at near the 1st of October. It was too late for our regularly scheduled meeting in October, so the board chair agreed to hold this special meeting. And again, while this is a ground sign, many of the same design considerations go into effect in terms of the design guidelines for downtown Salina. So you don't see a lot of them, but ground signs are allowed in the central business district, but they need to be located on lots that either have buildings that are set back greater than 10 feet or are vacant. So for example, First Bank Kansas has a parking lot that's on Santa Fe, and they have a ground sign in their parking lot because essentially that is a vacant lot. And there's no more than one ground sign allowed per street frontage. In the case of a vacant property such as this, 1 square foot of sign area is allowed per lineal foot of street frontage. So this parking lot has 150 feet of frontage on 5th Street, and the signage will only take up 10 square feet on this planter, which is compliant with size limitations. So as we looked at this, it appears the ground sign is to allow the parking lot to be more readily identified by hotel guests. The sign associates the parking lot with the hotel across the street. It appears to be proportional in scale with the site. It's at a pedestrian level and appears to be a pedestrian-friendly sign. It's close to, but doesn't interfere with sidewalk travel. The ground sign would consist of dark oxidized bronze letters mounted to the west face. It appears to be durable and weather-resistant materials. The logo and lettering would be consistent with the signage on the building. And there's a ground-mounted spotlight you can see there, and I think see better in the photograph. That ground-mounted spotlight would illuminate the sign face at night. So again, we looked at possible findings in support of approval of this sign. We think the sign will be coordinated with the overall facade composition of the hotel. It makes use of historic materials since the sign base is repurposed brick. It will not cover or obscure any architectural features. It looks like the color and materials will be compatible with the existing hotel. It will make the parking lot more recognizable, and the ground sign conforms with the C4 district regulations. So on this application, you have the same options: approving the application, approving it subject to conditions or modifications to the proposal, postponing consideration if you feel like you don't have enough information, or denying the application if you don't agree with staff's findings. So with that, I'd be open to any questions that you have. Mr. Rod Crawford is here to represent this application and the next application, so if you have any questions that staff can't answer, they can be directed to him.
You can go ahead and step up and identify yourself, please.
Yes, I'm Rod Crawford. First of all, I want to thank the board and staff for putting this special meeting agenda together. It's greatly appreciated when we can expedite projects. I think Dean stole all my thunder. They did a great job on this. I guess I would add that the repurposing of the brick was a challenge. We literally had to put it under lock and key for a year until we were ready to build the structure. But I think it was a neat use of that product and literally put it back on the same corner that it came from. And again, the sole purpose that we believe for the sign is to direct our guests to their parking lot for the evenings and give them a place to park. So with that, any questions?
Any questions or comments?
I didn't have any questions on this one at all.
No, that's really neat that they were able to refurbish that and use it. Yeah.
No. And I think
Thank
the
you.
sign looks clear and concise, and it's tasteful, and so. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to make a motion of option 1 that we approve the application upon finding. I don't think that they could do many changes to it, so I think we
Okay.
could approve as is.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you.
One thing we might want to check on, Rod, is I want to confirm with Dustin, you don't presently have a sign permit application in your possession, right?
Correct. So the next step would be to apply for a sign permit, basically using the same documents that we have here.
Yeah, we have all the attachments and drawings that we need. We just need an actual sign permit application and who'll be installing that, so. Okay. Yeah, I think if not, Dustin can send it to you to, if you want to send him a sign application, Dustin.
Thank you so much.
So that will bring us to our third sign of the afternoon, and that is an application that relates to the building at 141, 143, 145 South Santa Fe. And that building was purchased by Grassroots Efforts LLC, and we've given you a little bit of history on the building. It's a little bit unusual in terms of it was one of the few 3-bay buildings that was constructed in downtown Salina. So if you look at 3 50-foot bays of essentially identical design, but unfortunately the southern bay was destroyed by a fire in 1929, and so it was built back in a different form, and a design, as you can tell, did not replicate the original structure. So off the facade of 141, 143, 145 continues over to this area here, but our focus is right here. So in July of this year, you held a special meeting on the 23rd, and you reviewed an application filed on behalf of the owner, Grassroots Efforts LLC, and that was requesting approval to allow the rehabilitation and renovation of the existing storefront facades on buildings located on the east side of South Santa Fe at this location. And so we summarized for you on page 2 some of the proposed changes to the building facade. Most of those have been completed, except for getting final tenant finishes and getting signage in place for tenants. And so a building permit was issued for interior demolition and renovations, and for renovations in the exterior. And work on the apron strings retail tenant space is complete, and the space is now occupied. So on October 5th, we received a sign permit application to install a new wall sign to identify apron springs. And as we interpret it, the sign consists of red channel letters that will be mounted to the wainscoting above the store entrance The sign is 3.5 feet tall and 17 3/4 feet wide. And as we understand it, the letters will not be illuminated. And again, because of when the application was filed and how this schedule fell, the board chair agreed to hold this special meeting so we could consider this application along with the other two. We should be familiar with the design guidelines for signs in the downtown area that have been discussed. We're not talking about the entire building in this case. We're just focused on the apron strings tenant space. And so we're talking about a single wall sign with individual letters, will not be illuminated. It appears that the letters will be red and will be located in the transom area above the first floor storefronts. Based on the plan submitted, there's PVC wainscoting above and below the first floor windows, and the sign will be flush mounted to the wainscoting above the storefront. This will help identify the entrance to the store, and the sign letters will fit within the wainscoting where it will accent the building facade and help break up the 150 feet of frontage on this building. From our perspective, the sign appears to be proportional. It won't dominate or clash with the front facade. And it's proportional to the tenant space and would be pedestrian friendly as well. We noted that the original application made reference to metal signage with LED lighting, but as we understand it, this sign permit application indicates this will be a non-lit sign with no electrical connection. So, with 150 feet of frontage, this building could have a substantial amount of signage. Our sign regulations do allow a maximum of 4 signs per business and 10 signs per zoning lot, but as proposed, this sign certainly conforms with the downtown sign regulations. So again, on page 5, we've provided some summary suggested findings. We do think the sign will make the building more recognizable and pedestrian friendly. And it's a judgment call whether the red letters would complement the building materials on the front facade, but from staff's perspective, it seems to be proportional and compatible. So you could approve under option 1 the application as proposed. Under option 2, you could approve it subject to any conditions or modifications, such if you wanted to modify the color of the sign, that would be approve it, but modify it under option 2. Option 3 would be to postpone consideration to a future meeting date, and option 4 would be to deny the request. Again, we always have a standard condition under option 2 is that if for any reason there was a significant change in the actual permit from what was submitted to you, we would review that and determine whether it needed to be brought back to you. But we do have a pending sign permit for this application, so we don't think the proposal is going to change.
Okay. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind stepping up and identify yourself again, please.
I'm Rod Crawford, representing Grassroots LLC on this agenda item. I did want to point out, I think it's in your packet, sheet A2, the middle fixture in the middle of the page, that is actually uplighting that will be just below the wainscoting, which will illuminate all the signage that will eventually be on there. I also,
So as opposed to individual electricity for this sign, could you maybe point out where that assurance would be?
there's, in the construction, these dots represent J boxes that will accommodate uplighting to basically illuminate the storefront or above the storefront across the whole building. So you can see them right here.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a question I had, because I saw that in the picture, but then all the notes said no lighting, so
There's no internal lighting.
got it, okay.
What we ask is we ask the the sign contractor on the sign permit, whether there's any electrical work being done as part of the sign installation. They indicated no, but
it's-
this work's being done outside
Outside of the sign.
the sign permit,
Okay.
so.
I just had a question on the lettering and the yellow string. What's that, what is the material?
The product's all aluminum, it's cut lettering,
Okay.
aluminum, and I'm actually going to wrap myself out. Before we even applied for a sign permit, not knowing that we needed to go through a review board, or not appreciating that at the time, I had the sign fabricated. So I actually have, it's kind of blind faith to see it the way it is, but I actually have a photo of the sign sitting in our shop, if you want to look at it.
Well, so basically it's just going to be mounted flush on the,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, I actually would be curious, because I was
Okay,
having a
yeah,
hard
yeah,
time
sure, yes.
visualizing it.
Go ahead and start there. Yeah, it looks.
Thank you.
Yeah, please.
And then at the bottom, I actually, here, you want?
I'm sure, you got plenty of copies, thank you, yeah,
At
okay.
the bottom, you can actually see the tenant's business card.
Uh-huh,
And the sign obviously was intended to replicate her business card and her font.
okay. And so this is just slightly extended
Yeah,
out, but
I
just.
believe the wainscoting has a 1 3/4 reveal. So the legs you see in the photo are there just to go across that reveal.
Get over that,
Okay,
okay.
that makes sense.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. And is the apron strings or the string portion, the yellow?
Yes.
It is yellow, in the picture it looks kind of red. so-
Yeah,
But that-
I'm not a photographer.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I
I
just
apologize.
wanted
But
to
yes,
clarify.
it is
Just
it
'cause
is
I'm
yellow.
curious,
I
not that
think, really, if you're looking down at the business card, that is the color.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, any other?
That cleared up the questions I wrote down, so.
you have any-
That's why we have the applicants come to these meetings.
Yeah.
'Cause when Dustin was putting that image up there, I was like, where was that? Well, that was in the original that you saw in July, but we didn't zoom it up like that. So when he zoomed in and showed the spotlights, they're clearly there, but I didn't detect them on the drawing that I was looking
Yeah.
at. So that's
Yeah.
why we have the meetings, and that's why we have the applicants to help clarify, so.
Very good. Okay, any other comments, questions, anyone? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess if no other discussion, we're ready for a motion?
I would move for option 2.
Okay, thank you. And a second? So I got moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you for being here and discussing it.
We know that the tenant's in there and anxious to get their sign up, and we do have a pending permit for this, so we do appreciate, again, your willingness to meet and have this special meeting so we can move forward on those permits.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any administrative items, or?
We do not have any administrative items. I guess my only administrative item was that I shared with you that Mr. Berger has retired, and so Dustin and I will be sharing his duties for the immediate future, so you'll be seeing more of me.
Okay.
And we do have an application that's been filed for your November 12th regular meeting, so that will be held as originally scheduled. We haven't been talking with anybody else that I know of that has anything pending, but we know for sure that we will meet on the 12th of November. And in terms of unfinished or other business, as chair, I have a couple sets of minutes here for Chair Martins to sign.
Oh, okay.
And before you escape. So, yeah, our primary
So don't run.
primary administrative item is to let you all know that we will meet again on the 12th of November.
Okay, and no other unfinished items or business, and I don't see anybody here from the public forum. unless you have another comment. Okay, well, in that case, take a motion to adjourn.
I move.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
Do you have